And here we are, last one, best one, right? I said that to my physio the other day when he's like, oh, you're my last client of the day. I'm like, last one, best one. He did not agree. But at least with the accounting videos, he also did not agree, but he also didn't agree. So I try not to take that personally. But here, last one, best one, describe the cost classifications used in decision making. So when we make decisions, specifically differential costs, opportunity costs, and sunk costs. Every decision we make involves a choice between at least two alternatives. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a decision. There would be just next. So only the costs and the benefits that differ between alternatives are relevant in a decision. All other costs and benefits can and should be ignored. So a differential cost and a differential revenue, let's dig in. A difference in cost between any two alternatives is known as a differential cost. And likewise, or similarly, a difference in revenues between any two alternatives is known as differential revenue. A differential cost is also known as an incremental cost, an increase in cost from one alternative to another. Similarly with an incremental revenue. So we really care about what is the difference between the two alternatives, otherwise known as differential costs, incremental costs, or differential revenues, incremental revenues. Let's apply this. Suppose you are trying to decide whether or not to drive your car or take a train to Vancouver to attend a concert. You have enough cash to do either, but you don't want to spend more money than is necessary. Is the cost of the train ticket relevant in this decision? In other words, should the cost of the train ticket affect the decision of whether or not you drive your car or take the train to Vancouver? What do you think? Yeah, I absolutely think the cost of the train ticket is relevant because you're looking at two decisions. Are you going to drive or are you going to take the train? So you'll look at the train ticket, it's $200, and then you think about the cost it would take to drive your car, and you're like, well, that'll be at least 2 tanks of gas, which is $160. Maybe that's where you stop. Or you're like, oh crap, that's actually going to be 1,000, sure, for round numbers, kilometers put on my vehicle. That's a lot of extra wear and tear. So maybe you want to allocate some wear and tear. Now, what else do you have to put into this consideration? Well, there's going to be those financial elements, which is going to be our focus for this video, but also in the back of your mind. Okay, great. I now know that the train ticket is going to cost me slightly less than driving, but there's pros and cons. With the train ticket, I don't need to drive. Great, I can just sit back and enjoy it. But if I drove, I could have other people come with me, and maybe that would be even more fun. And hey, if other people come with me, maybe they can split the costs. So now I'm not just looking at the cost of the train ticket versus the cost of driving, but I'm looking at the cost of a train ticket versus, half of the cost of driving, my half. So just some things to keep in mind. All right. Let's look at one more element. Suppose you're trying to decide, again, whether or not to drive your car or take the train to Vancouver, again, a concert. You have enough cash to do either, but you do not want to spend more money than is necessary. Is the annual cost of licensing your car relevant in this decision? What do you think? Annual cost of licensing. No. The cost of licensing is not relevant because you would pay this cost of licensing regardless if you drove the car to go to the concert or not. You have to have licensing each year for your car, so therefore it is not relevant to your decision making here. Awesome. So now we're really digging into relevant and non-relevant costs. In summary, opportunity costs are relevant and some costs are, well, sometimes painful, not relevant. But let's dig into each. Opportunity cost is defined as the potential benefit that is given up when one alternative is selected over another. An example, Linda likes to go to the gym every evening after work. Linda is considering taking a university course that meets on Monday and Wednesday evenings. The opportunity cost of taking the course is going to the gym. All right, so sunk costs. Sunk costs have already incurred and cannot be changed now or in the future. They should be ignored when making decisions. They're already done, can't get them back. An example is Canco Company. They spent $75,000 on research and development related to a new product. Whether the company launches the product or should not launch the product shouldn't be based on the amount spent in R&D, but rather on future costs and future benefits. Ugh, that's hard though, because you're like, man, I spent $75,000. I want to get my money's worth. But the thing is, you can't get that money back, so it's not relevant to the future. What is relevant is what are the future incremental costs that I might incur, and what are the future incremental benefits that I might incur, and seeing if the costs in the future outweigh the benefits in the future, because you always want your benefits to exceed your costs. Oh man, okay, that's a hard one. Why do I have this picture of water slides? It's actually, if you zoom out, I was trying to find one of a cruise, and the reason for that is a number of years ago, my husband and I took a cruise. And we went to this country that was on the cruise stop, and you were only allowed out of the country if you had a visa, and the only way you could get a visa was if you had booked a tour. So we booked a 2-day tour because we're like, great, we're here for 2 days. It was a little bit extra money to do the 2-day tour versus the 1-day tour, and it was a small group tour. Great. So on the first day, we are with the tour group, and I should say something. I'm an only child. And while I do think I play well with others, we tend to like travel in smaller groups. Like we don't tend to, or just like us as a couple. And so we're in this group and let's just say like there's kids, and that's okay. Kids are fine. I was one once, like it's all good. My friends have them. But there was one child that was like very well, like not well behaved, and the parents were on vacation, and there was like no parenting this kid. So anyways, this kid was like running into us, like touching us with their, like they'd eat and then like touch everybody. Like it was just went over and over, and we would like be at dinners, group dinners, and then the kid like reached across my husband and like spilled a drink and like didn't apologize. And anyways, it was just a bunch of like little things. And on top of it, we saw a lot of the country, we saw a lot of the history, and we looked at the itinerary. Oh, and they brought us to like a souvenir shop for like a large amount of time, and then just kind of like left us there. It was an interesting thing, to say the least. So at the end of the day one, we had a choice, and that was, do we go on the second day, or do we go to the cruise ship that's going to be less busy because there are less people on there, and like really like explore the different amenities? We had, unlimited like beverage passes, and there was some pools that we hadn't checked out. We didn't really spend a day on the cruise ship yet. So our decision making, as painful as it was, because the 2-day trip, like the second day, we were considering not going on it. And we had already paid for it. So part of us wanted to get our money's worth, like gotta make it worth it. But the thing is, that's a sunk cost. There was no getting it back. Nobody would refund us for 1 day. They mentioned that several different times, I guess because maybe people are good for 1 day, but don't go back for the second. Maybe we're not alone. But regardless, our decision making needs to be looking forward. What's the incremental costs versus the incremental benefits? Since the money wasn't going to be different either way, i.e. there was no refunds, it was all qualitative. So where would we have the better time? And we decided that the better time for us would have been exploring the cruise ship, sleeping in a little bit, not being like on a bus both ways, and definitely just kind of being to ourselves and having a more like quiet day, and definitely using our beverage pass. So that is a little bit of an ouchy one, but a lesson that we learned, and definitely maybe consider going forward, having that optionality of booking 1 day, and then you can always pay a little bit extra to book that second day, but at least you have the choice. Okay. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you've had your own instances of some costs that you're like, ugh, I have this these comedy tickets, or I have these movie tickets, but the snow is just so awful. I don't want to risk it. It's not like I can get the price of the movie tickets back, but maybe it's better to just stay in this evening. Or maybe you've had that in the past, and now you only buy movie tickets when you're actually in front of the movie theater, no matter how big of a discount they would give you to pre-purchase, because you really value your optionality and don't want to incur any sunk costs. Okay, let's look at a quick check. Canco Company has obsolete manufacturing equipment with an original cost of $70,000 that could be sold for $5,000. If the company decides not to sell this equipment, is the $5,000 considered to be a sunk cost? What do you think? So no, this is not a sunk cost because it could be sold, so it could be sold in the future for $5,000. So if the company decides not to sell it, that means they're choosing not to, so that's more of an opportunity cost. Like that's something they're choosing not to do, sell or not sell. And it's absolutely relevant. So if you have equipment sticking around, it's obsolete, and you could sell it, and you don't, that's a relevant cost, relevant. It is relevant. It's an opportunity cost if you don't sell it, and it's $5,000. It is absolutely not a sunk cost. All right. So, end of chapter summary. We are here already. Manufacturing costs, we covered. Direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. We looked at also non-manufacturing costs, selling, general, and admin, marketing, as well as just admin. Costs at either product or period. Is it related to the coffee cup? Is it related to the SG&A? We have our in and out, otherwise known as, or rearranged in another way. Our cost of goods sold is equal to our beginning inventory plus our cost of goods manufactured minus our ending inventory. Then we looked at cost classifications. Are they variable, fixed, or mixed? And are they going to be either directly tied to the product or not? And we looked at decision making. What's relevant, that's the differential, that's the opportunity cost, and what's not relevant, the sunk costs. Okay, and little bonus material. I told you about my snoring little bulldog. So unfortunately, so this is Guinness, snoring little bulldog, and Bambi. Unfortunately, Guinness had a bit of a scare and had to be taken to the vet yesterday. He is being well cared for and loved for, but he is not on my lap. He is recovering in the other room right now with his dad, getting lots and lots of love while I sit and record these videos for you. So if you missed his little snoring, I'm sure he will be back in the next video, which I'm looking forward to recording. I will see you next week. Have a good one.